With all that being said, you guys want to move into Boston at New York?
I'm ready.
Cool. So this game, we'll probably talk about it the least, but it was a good matchup. I got to watch a little bit of it. It just to peek behind the curtain. Today is Wednesday, so it happened today. So not all of us got to watch it front to back or anything like that. But obviously, it's a matchup of two very important teams in the East, and especially it's interesting with the new look Boston Celtics and their two huge acquisitions with Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. This game ended up being a very tight one, with Boston winning in New York 108 to 104. A lot of different directions you can go here. Caelan, I believe out of the three of us, you watched the most of this game, so I'll let you lead off. What stuck out to you about this matchup between these two Eastern Conference powerhouses?
This was an ugly game, guys. This game was ugly. It was full of mistakes and turnovers. And we know basketball is a game of runs, but when those runs are being had by both teams because of mistakes, it's a little more frustrating for the fan bases and just for a guy like me who loves basketball. But I definitely did want to catch this game. This is obviously the first look at the new look Boston Celtics, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday. So that was definitely exciting. I wish that I was thinking about this, guys, and like I'm just gonna be transparent. I wish that I was smarter about basketball so that I could explain to the audience why I believe Kristaps um, would be unlocked by this Celtics rotation. Um, I could not really explain it or really even understand why I felt that way, but I definitely had strong feelings at the start of the season that Kristaps would have a really good year playing with this lineup, and I thought he had a strong game. He had a ton of open looks, guys. I think that's gonna be the thing. They're playing him at the five, and the Knicks start Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson is awesome on the glass, particularly the offensive glass. He's kind of like a Frankenstein player, is how I describe him. He's really strong. He's got like long limbs. He's gangly, and he does a lot of leaning on people and sapping big man's energy and just fighting on the glass. He's really annoying, and he does not spend a lot of time out in space. That's not his deal. That's not what he does. He's super uncomfortable. He was in foul trouble for the vast majority of the game. He just kept finding himself out in space in uncomfortable positions. You look at his defensive footwork, it was a mess. He was all over the place. So I think that's interesting. I think that is brought about because of that Celtics 5-out lineup. I thought that was going to be tough for other teams to guard. Uh, I thought a little bit about Miami because I thought Miami might actually match up well because of how comfortable Bam is. Because when the Knicks brought in Isaiah Hartenstein, their backup center, that guy who can move a lot better than Mitchell Robinson isn't as good on the glass or down low, but he can move a lot better. He was fighting his tail off. He had a good game. Actually, I thought he was really out there scrapping and playing well. But like I mentioned, I mean, this was a game of runs because of poor play. I saw on both sides a lot of turnovers, a lot of bad 3-point shots where the guy guarding it would leak out and get an easy layup because they're not getting back. I saw that on both sides. Um, I saw just not a ton of action on either side. There's an element that this matchup is just kind of going to be kind of a bloodbath, even mid-season when they're in better form. But yeah, I was kind of just disappointed by the play on both sides. Julius Randle 5 for 22. He had a terrible game, and he was really bothered by Kristaps Porzingis' length. He was going inside trying to score, and he's a bully ball player. But Kristaps, he's just too long for him, and he got Kristaps had a couple blocks. He just really bothered him, and it was tough to score inside. They had to really rely on that 3-point jumper, but in the end, they made too many mistakes, and the Celtics were able to close this one. Jaylen Brown, guys, what was that, guys? Maybe watch this game back later on. Pistons, Jaylen Brown, he was
I was about to ask.
awful.
This looks really. I was always concerned about what how this was going to affect him as far as bringing in Porzingis and Holiday. Is I feel like his play was always the most sensitive to having like degrading moving forward with new pieces. So what was going on with him? How would you kind of describe his play?
He looked a little lost. I don't want to use the word disheveled, but he just it. I think you kind of hit it, Lino. I think with the new pieces coming in, you'd expect a player of his caliber who was already on the team to be more comfortable and be completely fine asserting himself. Drew Holiday was more aggressive than he was offensively. Drew Holiday had no problem taking his shots when necessary, and he definitely hit a couple. Jaylen Brown did not, 0 for 4 from three, and he cost him the game, or almost cost him the game. Late in the fourth quarter, he had so many mistakes that were crucial that the Knicks kind of spit up over themselves right back and gave the game away. But Jaylen Brown made several crucial mistakes. There was a turnover on a bad pass. He was at the top of the key, and he tried to rifle one all the way down low and was picked off by Jalen Brunson. They go down the court, they get a three. And then on the subsequent inbound, Jaylen Brown just inbounds it to nobody. He threw it a soft pass at Tatum's feet, quickly picks the ball off, and they swing it around. It finds I think it was Grimes or somebody in the corner. Jaylen Brown closes out, fouls him on a three. He makes it 4-point play. I mean, this is this is at the end of the game. So the Knicks, I mean, still found a way to lose, but I mean, it was just not encouraging. Jaylen Brown lost the ball a couple times, and I don't want to make too much of that. I mean, dude, what is that? He just kind of loses the ball on his handle. I don't understand that. So yeah, I liked what I saw from Porzingis. Kind of typical stuff from Tatum. He scored pretty well. He was getting the boards. We saw, what was it? Luke Cornett got some minutes, and that was interesting. I think he's going to be playing pretty consistently. And then we saw some Sam Hauser minutes. He didn't really do much. But, I mean, the Celtics pulled away with it. I think they're going to be really good this season. I have them winning the most games in the NBA, but interesting start to the season.
Yeah, no doubt. I only caught the first quarter, but immediately Porzingis' impact looked real scary if you're a fan of an Eastern Conference team. There are a couple plays where, like you referencing, Mitchell Robinson was just really unsure about where to be. And like there was one play, I want to say it was maybe Tatum set a screen for Derek White. Derek White came off, and Mitchell Robinson's just staring at Derek White, and because he's almost in a drop, like in help, he's just waiting, and behind him Porzingis is just running to the basket, and Derek White throws a lob, and Porzingis dunks it. But there's going to be so many bigs this year if Boston commits to this one big lineup that are going to really struggle with where to be and how to help in this 5-out system. Doc Rivers, who was on the call, was pointing out early on what a matchup nightmare it is to have to deal with Porzingis, and especially in this new ecosystem where there's so many good players and smart players around him. It's going to be really tough to deal with. One thing that I found interesting, just perusing the box score, like I said, only got to watch the first quarter, but Tatum, 39 minutes, Porzingis, 38 minutes, Jaylen Brown, 38 minutes.
Porzingis played a lot. Porzingis played the entire first quarter, if I'm not mistaken. He played a lot.
I don't think that's wise. Their bench, they had Horford, who played 26 minutes. Everyone else was under 15 minutes. Leading the way was Sam Hauser at 14. And I know, like, we talked about their depth being a concern, but like Peyton Pritchard's a regular season contributor. Lamar Stevens, O'Shea Brissett, those guys can at least guard at a good level in the regular season, and you have so much offensive talent. You should be able to play around those guys. But you played,
it's the first game.
Yeah, exactly. And you played a Thibodeau team, and their bench has way more minutes than your team does. That should always be a red flag. They have 3 guys off their bench who are 22 plus minutes, and they have a better bench. I get it, but that is concerning to me. I get why it's so tempting to play so many of their starting 5 plus Horford, so much of their top 6 as much as possible. But this is a championship contender. Like, let's be realistic here. Porzingis should probably be at like 31, 32 minutes. Like, I would worry just because of his health concerns and just trying to preserve. The less you're out there, the less like you are to get hurt. Just
Look. This is the case for the Celtics, because I hear what you're saying, but one, I think Joe wanted to really win this game. Joe Mazzulla, the head coach, I think he wanted to win the game. It was back and forth late, but I think listen, when you look at the bench, I mean, you're asking for what, more Sam Hauser minutes? You mentioned Peyton Pritchard, but he's a small guard, so he's not going to help out in the front court. They play Kristaps a lot. I mean, they played him next to Al Horford sometimes, and they only play Al sometimes. But like I said, 8 minutes from Luke Cornett. I mean, how many Luke Cornett minutes you really asking for? I mean,
No, that's fair. That's fair. And
like
I
they're
almost
really thin. They're very thin.
they are, and I always go back to this, and I know I sound this will be the third Bismack Biyombo reference I've made on this podcast in 4 episodes. But get Bismack Biyombo or just get a screen and roll center. You have so much perimeter offensive talent. He'll be asked to do almost nothing but catch the ball and dunk. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like Cornette, only 8 minutes, and I would be worried about pushing that past 14, 15 minutes.
Oh, that's
But
too
at
many
this,
minutes.
yeah, but at the same time, Horford and Porzingis are your other bigs, and Horford's age is obviously a concern, and then Porzingis' long-term health. So that starting five looked awesome, but I mean, if they won like 58 games last year, I think it would serve them well to win 51 this year and keep all their guys at 32, 33 minutes.
They might need to make a deal at the deadline.
Drummond looked good today.
Sure.
Drummond looks solid today.
Put in the
Oh
call.
my God.
Yeah, and I might even I would probably, I mean, Derek White could probably play a couple more minutes and run that bench unit if you just get him a big that he can run with consistently and get some of these guys some rest. But yeah, I agree that they may have to do this, but it's not going to be pretty down the line for everybody's health.
Yeah, I think they gotta get they're gonna have to get some forwards in there. They got O'Shea Brissett that didn't play at all. As well as Lamar Stevens. I think he might get some burn.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
for
we
sure,
saw Neemias Queta at Summer League 2 years ago, and he was awesome. Get him out there.
There you go. So it'll
He was
be
playing for the
interesting to see
Kings.
how the Celtics play that because they want to win a title. That it's not about the regular season for them. So you obviously want home court, hopefully a top 3 seed, but I think it would be ill-advised to push super hard in the regular season. But maybe they have a plan to like play guys heavy minutes when they play, but they're all going to be like at 65 games or something. Maybe they're trying to counteract it that way. So we'll see. All right. Well, if did you guys have any other thoughts on this matchup? No? Okay, cool. Well, then we can move into just a barn burner of an opening week matchup. The Detroit Pistons take on the Miami Heat in their home opener. Miami wins 103-102 in the year 2023. And we're going to dive into it. I watched every second of this, and it took years off my life. We are officially back. The team with the most clutch games in NBA history last year is right back on the path to outdo themselves. So obviously I have a lot of thoughts, but I'll open it up to Lino to start. What were just some general takeaways, maybe just a couple things, and we can just bounce around different things that stood out from this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think a win is a win, and I'm happy that they won. As a guy that's unreasonably and irrationally high on the Pistons this year, it was good to see them put forth a decent effort, though they've got a lot of things to work on, especially from a rotation standpoint. But I liked what I saw from our starters. I thought they looked pretty solid through really a majority of the game, honestly. I like the roles that everybody was playing. I like the shots that they were making. We are really, really yearning for some 3-point shooting somewhere once again. But otherwise, I really liked what I saw from Bam, Jimmy, our rookie, Jaime Jaquez Jr. finally got to get some minutes after only playing one preseason game, and I thought he looked really composed out there, and that was really fun to watch. And then he took a hard hit and I think hit his head on the ground, and I was like, oh gosh, he's about to be out for another week. We're never going to see this kid play. But he seemed fine. But yeah, otherwise, I'm just glad we walked away with a W.
Yeah, I guess to start with the Detroit side, because I'm sure I'll spend more time on Miami. Love that they started Asar Thompson. If you want to be a serious team 3 to 4 years from now, you need to fast track his development. Defensively, Asar looked awesome. Tyler Hero made a lot of comments in the offseason about how he wants to go to the rim more, draw more fouls. One of the game's first possessions, he drove left on Asar, and Asar promptly pinned it off the backboard in emphatic fashion. And just a few possessions later, blocked Jimmy Butler, I believe, twice on the same possession. He's just such an incredible athlete, moves so well laterally, just everything you'd want defensively as advertised. The box score has it as 5 blocks. The broadcast said it was 6 blocks at one point. So anyway, it was making plays all over the defensive end. He did hit a three, which is encouraging. The shooting is going to be a huge swing skill for both the Thompson twins. The standout on Detroit obviously has to be Cade Cunningham. 30 points, 9 assists, 3 rebounds, 13 of 27 from the field. I'm a huge Cade fan. Cade was probably the first player I followed in high school, not in terms of like hoop mixtapes. Like I watched, Austin Rivers hoop mixtape and stuff. But Cade was the first guy that he was like a sophomore and then a junior, and he was playing at all like the USA camps and stuff. And it was like, oh, this guy's going to be the number 1 pick in a few years. Cade looked incredible. He has a steel rod in his shin. I think it somehow made him a better basketball player. The jumper was falling. It was beautiful. There was a lot of congestion to deal with. Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart and Asar Thompson are all out there. And even though Isaiah Stewart can shoot to a degree, that's not a lot of spacing. Killian Hayes was also in the starting lineup, which is questionable. But anyway, Cade's not working with a lot of space, and he's still getting to a lot of mid-range jumpers, still made some great passes. So blown away by what Cade was able to do. Monty starting Killian over Jaden Ivey feels like something that'll last.
Rough.
Yeah, that feels like something that'll last maybe a week. I maybe Killian's a better defender than Ivy right now. I'm not sure what the thinking is there. I don't really see why they'd want to prioritize that. But and then the Heat portion, there's lots to go over. Ultimately, biggest fear of this team, as it always has been, is the offense, specifically the half-court offense. And this game highlighted that without Jimmy Butler on the floor, and especially without Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo on the floor, it's going to be really hard for this team to score. I'm excited for Tyler Hero. I think he's going to have a good year. Not, one game won't change that. 7 of 24 is rough to come out of the gates. And the first half was worse than that. He kind of picked it up in the second half. But 7 of 24 for 16 points is hard to say out loud. And a lot of it was shots were getting blocked. I think he really wants to be intentional about driving and drawing fouls, but he does not have the respect of the officials to really draw fouls. I feel like it should have started with, I just want to drive a lot more. And then maybe the fouls will be a byproduct. A lot of these he's complaining after drives, which like whatever, guys complain, that's not really a problem. But you can tell, at least because that's a byproduct of it, a lot of these drives seem to be focused on getting fouls, and that's never going to work, especially when you're not a physically imposing player where a referee is going to see you miss a layup and be like, oh, he shouldn't have missed that. And there was some contact. It must have impacted whether he was able to make the shot or not. So, Tyler will be better, but was definitely disappointed with his game overall. And Spo, again, is trying these lineups where it's Tyler and all bench guys. There's a lot of Tyler, Duncan, Caleb, Jaime, and Thomas Bryant, which Thomas Bryant was a bright spot. He looked good. But those kind of units are not going to be able to, generate enough offense, especially to make up for some of the issues they're going to have defensively, because out of those guys, Caleb Martin's probably the only positive defender. So I'm rambling a lot now, but Caelan, I know you didn't get to watch much of this game or any of it. Is there anything from the box score or just general questions you had about how Detroit or Miami might have looked, or just kind of general thoughts you had on this?
Who's gonna guard point guards for Miami? Like who does that for you guys?
That's a
Honestly, I would see Caleb Martin probably getting a lot more minutes moving forward into the season, just from a defensive standpoint, because everywhere else it's pretty ugly. from our point guard standpoints, and our guards in general. We just don't really have any defensive minded guards. Jaime Jaquez is going to develop and is probably going to develop a defensive attitude just as he learns under Jimmy and tries to continue that prototype that he's already building. But otherwise, as far as who's ready right now, the question or the answer is yes.
Yeah, no, it should be Josh Richardson. Hopefully he'll be healthy soon. And that's why I was such a proponent of him starting alongside Tyler. Because if you're starting Kyle at this stage of his career and Tyler and Kevin Love, like I think Jimmy and Bam are two of the best defenders in the league, but that's too much to overcome for them. And those guys aren't good enough offensive players to justify it. I think Tyler probably is. But the other two, Kyle Lowry took one shot, and it was
that was literally my next question.
Yeah, it was late
32
in the
minutes.
quarter. Yeah, and there were so many opportunities for him to just take a catch and shoot three, and he was just doing an extra swing pass. And I like Kyle Lowry a lot. I like the way he plays. He's probably a Hall of Famer. It's made so much sense for him to go to the bench, and him being inserted back into the starting lineup, you're seeing a lot of the issues that were there last year and why he got moved to the bench in the first place and why he was replaced by Gabe Vincent. Vincent's great.
I see him getting moved back pretty fast. He was just doing cardio out there for 32 minutes pretty much.
Yeah, and the defense was fine, but like the game started, to your point, Caelan, and Kyle is on Cade. And Cade went nuts. And Cade's
right.
a big
as he should.
Cade went crazy. He started dribbling extra hard and shit. He was going crazy.
Cade's a big point guard, so that's not like a great matchup for Kyle. But it's like you just start in a hole every game if you're like, oh, well, we'll configure it this way. And then for much of the second half and all of the end of the fourth quarter, Jimmy's on Cade. And that's what this is going to end up in important minutes. Jimmy's going to have to be guarding the other team's best non-big, not even just like perimeter player, but anybody from the 1 to the 4 that's their best player. Jimmy will have to guard unless hopefully you're able to close with Caleb. And then he's also going to have to do everything on offense. And it's just not tenable, especially for a guy like Jimmy that wants to coast in the regular season. So obviously I have a lot of thoughts, but also one thing that's just, you won't see in the box score or anything, but Caleb Martin's definitely hurt. He didn't play any in the preseason, and they said he's going to be on a minutes restriction to about 20 minutes. It's game 1. Why is he playing at all? Like, we probably would have lost to the Pistons, but like, oh, well, like if you want to do anything this year, Caleb Martin needs to be your 4th, maybe your 3rd best player. So prioritize that. Like, anyway, so sorry, a lot of rambling.
Yeah, I don't know if it's maybe like a ramp up situation, but I was concerned.
I have a few more questions for y'all boys if y'all want to field these.
Yeah, by all means.
A question about the young guys. I'm curious to know what you guys thought about Jaime Jaquez. 3 for 3 in 13 minutes looks pretty good. And then I also definitely want to know about this kid who's supposed to be in this awesome trade package. He didn't even play. What's up with Jovic? Is he good or not? He didn't even play.
That's great.
We'll start with the bright spot. Let's start with the bright spot. Jaime Jaquez Jr. is just awesome, dude. Just seeing him out there, it's literally like watching a little baby Jimmy on the team with Jimmy. Like, he catches it in the same way. He hits the same jab step pivot, pump fakes 3 times, duck under, and gets to the basket. Like 3 very simple field goals. Took them at just the right moment. Was not trying to do too much out there. Was very focused on defense and trying his best out there. I just really like what we see from him, and I'm excited for him to get more minutes moving forward. But I'm sure they're going to take their time with his development. But again, like Micah said, he's kind of a bigger dude. So with Caleb Martin not feeling 100%, get him some more minutes. Get Jamal Cain up from the G League, and let's just figure it out from there. But Jaime Jaquez Jr. is going to be a legitimate basketball player by the end of the year. And moving forward, he's going to be a super important piece for us so long as he can continue to develop. As far as Jovic, I don't know that they see it with him just yet. I think he had a pretty
No,
decent
they
preseason.
don't see it.
I
He's got
don't.
it. He's got it, but they just don't. They just
They
don't know.
just they just don't know that he's gonna be a good basketball player. But
Okay.
like he actually had a decent honestly, in my personal opinion, I don't know that he's a very serious basketball player. He kind of has a bit of an unserious approach to basketball when I see him out there. He's just kind of
Y'all gonna
he
play Cole
catches it
Swider before y'all play that dude.
literally like I just don't know that he has like the seriousness that Spo wants to see on the basketball court at any given time. Because at any given moment, I feel like Jovic might try like some random behind the back pass or fadeaway jumper, and then Spo's like, okay, come sit down. That's enough from you. And I like him, and I thought he had a good showing in preseason, at least from a shooting standpoint. He was shooting really well, and knocking down a lot of shots. But I don't know if he's really doing the work on all the other aspects of basketball for him to get minutes right now.
Yeah. So to go in the same order, Hawk has looked awesome. He looked
Mm-hmm.
so comfortable. Looked good defensively. That's where I'll definitely watch him the closest. I trust the offense. But yeah, was in the right position defensively, made some plays, got a couple steals. We didn't get to see spot up shooting. That'll definitely be a big piece, to see how much teams guard him out there. But they're actually running the offense through him sounds strong, but they were letting him be a decision maker out of the post, and he made some really good plays. He had like a cross court pass to Kevin Love for a three, but and it's not something that they only let the best of the best do. PJ Tucker actually did this for them a good bit the year he was in Miami. But he's in the mid post, he's posted up, and he's just getting to survey the court. But the fact that they're letting him as a rookie do that and be part of his primary role off the bench, I thought was really encouraging. Jovic, I'm a lot lower on than a lot of Heat fans. He definitely feels like the Family Guy mystery box, where it's like, oh, do you want this boat or this mystery box? And it's like, well, the mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat. Like Jovic, there hasn't been a lot put on film of him being a positive impact NBA player, and he's young. He's even young for a rookie, or in this case, a second year player. But I I don't know if Spo's gonna trust the defense anytime soon. And I think tonight highlights that with Josh Richardson and Haywood Highsmith out. And Haywood especially is primarily gonna play power forward and will
Mm-hmm.
definitely be ahead of Jovic in the rotation. So if you get a DMP when the backup ahead of you is out, I to me that says you're pretty far away. Also just talking about the depth and stuff, quick shout out to Duncan Robinson, had a really good game and is really important for the bench unit. So if Duncan could get back, not even to like 2021 Duncan, but just like or 2020 Duncan, but if he could get to 2021 Duncan, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, getting this Duncan game from him was awesome. I think if we can get 2 for 5 from three from him and 3 for 5 at least every once in a while, like that's all we really need. And as long as he's not a huge defensive liability, but I was super concerned in the preseason because his shots weren't really falling. But he seems to be ready to go now. So hopefully he can carry in some of the momentum that he had from the playoffs last year.
Okay, one more question. I just took a little gander here at the points per game for Bam and Jimmy last year. Is there a world in which Bam can lead this team in scoring?
I think so. If I had to bet going into this year, I'd say Tyler leads the team in scoring, but I think there's a chance any of those three could.
Really?
I think Jimmy's so passive, he'd love for someone else to. And you saw tonight, I mean, Tyler, I know he had 24 field goal attempts. Second highest with Jimmy was 18, which that feels abnormally high for a regular season game for Jimmy. But yeah, I think there's a chance Tyler could or Bam. I think all those guys will probably be between 18 and 22 points a game. But I wouldn't be surprised if any of them.
Last year, it looks like I think Jimmy was 22.9, Bam was like 20.4, and Tyler was 20.1, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty close.
No.
Interesting. Cool. Cool.
Yeah, but yeah, it was fun.
To go a little bit back to the Pistons, like you mentioned earlier, Sar Thompson is just he's ready. to be out there, and I'm glad to see him starting because he's just going to continue to grow. Cade Cunningham, if we're going to get this all year from him, that is going to be really awesome to see, and I'm so excited for his development. Killian Hayes needs to be put in a closet somewhere and hidden very far away for a very long time. I don't understand how he got 31 minutes tonight. Got to put up 12 shots.
He was a +1 in those minutes.
Yeah, that's probably because he was standing next to Cade Cunningham while he was torching Kyle Lowry.